198 to D Lincoln Penny 1-cent coin. Are you sitting down, coin collectors? Because what we're about to dive into is a journey into a tiny copper treasure that has made massive waves in the numismatic world. It's more than a penny, it's a window into a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage history. We're talking about the 1980 to D Lincoln penny, a coin that seems ordinary on the surface, but is anything but ordinary beneath it. Whether you're a casual hobbyist or a seasoned investor, the story of the 1980 to D Lincoln penny will captivate your mind and perhaps even change the way you look at the change in your pocket. Let's rewind to the early 1980s. The U.S. Mint faced a practical dilemma. The price of copper had been steadily rising for years, and by 1981, producing a 1-cent coin cost more than its face value. This wasn't just an accounting issue, it was a fundamental problem in the economics of minting. Copper was becoming a liability. The U.S. government had to make a decision, and 1980 became the year that everything changed. That's what makes this penny so historically significant. It marks the transition from the traditional copper-based penny to the new zinc-based coin we know today. Before 1982, Lincoln cents were composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But starting in the latter half of 1982, the U.S. Mint began using copper-plated zinc plankets instead, flipping the ratio to just 2.5% copper and 97.5% zinc. But here's where it gets fascinating. The transition wasn't immediate. Instead, both copper and zinc pennies were produced in 1982, using different varieties of die 7, to be exact. Among these, the 1980 to D penny struck in copper is the unicorn, a legendary rarity that for decades was thought not to exist, until one was discovered. Let's talk about that 1980 to D copper small date variety. The Denver Mint was supposed to have produced only zinc pennies that year, but in 2016, a 1980 to D small date penny made of copper surfaced. It underwent rigorous testing and was authenticated by PCGS, shocking the numismatic community. It's believed that a copper planchet, left over from earlier production, was accidentally used at the Denver facility. That's the kind of error that transforms a 1-cent coin into a 6-figure collectible. From a design standpoint, the 1980 to D Lincoln penny continues the classic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln by Victor David Brenner. This design, introduced in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday, remains one of the most iconic in American coinage. On the obverse, we see the right-facing bust of Lincoln, with the words "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the date and mint mark, 1980 to D to the right. On the reverse, we find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, a design used from 1959 until 2008. Every column, every detail was made to emphasize Lincoln's enduring legacy. The mintage numbers for the 198 to D Lincoln penny are staggering. Over 6 billion coins were struck. But here's where context is everything. The bulk of those were the copper-plated zinc variety. Copper coins from Denver. As far as official records go, they weren't supposed to exist. That's why the verified 1980 to D copper small date is so extraordinary. Let's discuss value. For regular 1980 to D zinc pennies, the value is generally face value in circulated condition. However, in pristine mint state, some can fetch a few dollars depending on strike quality and grade. High-grade examples graded MS67 by PCGS or NGC can sell for $10 to $30, but if you're lucky enough to find one of the ultra-rare copper small date 198 to D varieties, brace yourself. One verified example sold for $18,800 in a heritage auction sale, and numismatists speculate that if another comes to market in higher grade, it could exceed $100,000. Why? Because rarity, combined with historical context and collector demand, creates the perfect storm for explosive value. Errors on 198 to D Lincoln cents are another reason collectors keep a sharp eye on this coin. While most are fairly standard in zinc-based issues, such as die cracks, off-center strikes, and plating bubbles due to the copper layer separating from the zinc core, they remain collectible. A dramatic off-center strike or a double die can bring in $50 to $200 depending on severity and grade. These kinds of errors are the bread and butter of modern Lincoln cent collecting, and the 1980 to D is no exception. Collectors today are intensely interested in 198 to D Lincoln cents because they straddle that crucial moment of composition change. They represent a point in time when the mint was experimenting, adjusting, transitioning, and sometimes making mistakes. That makes the 198 to D more than just a penny. It's a symbol of change, both literal and figurative. If you're hunting for one of these coins, here's some advice. First, weigh your 198 to D Lincoln cents. A copper penny will weigh around 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny weighs closer to 2.5 grams. Use a digital scale accurate to 2 decimal points. If you find a small date 198 to D weighing around 3.1 grams, it might be your golden ticket. Get it authenticated. It could change your life. 1983D Lincoln Penny 1 cent coin. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind one of the most intriguing pennies of the modern era coin that, at first glance, might look like any other, but in reality carries with it layers of mystery, rarity, and incredible collector value. The 1983D Lincoln Penny isn't just another copper-plated zinc cent. It's a coin that continues to spark interest and even controversy in the numismatic world. It's a story that reminds us, always check your chain. You never know what hidden gem might be sitting unnoticed in a handful of cents. Let's begin with the historical context. The year was 1983, and the U.S. Mint had fully transitioned to the new copper-plated zinc composition for the 1 cent coin. After years of dealing with rising copper prices, 1980 saw the start of this change, and by 1983, all mints including Denver were striking Lincoln cents with zinc cores and a thin copper plating. This change significantly altered not only the physical properties of the coin, but also the way it ages and behaves over time. While the change may have saved the U.S. Mint millions of dollars, it opened the door to new types of minting issues and some unexpected rarities. The 1983D Lincoln Penny was struck at the Denver Mint and features the D Mint mark beneath the year. The obverse design, as always, bears the unmistakable profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a classic that has stood the test of time since its debut in 1909. The inscriptions include "In God We Trust" above Lincoln's head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1983, followed by the D Mint mark to the right. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, complete with intricate detailing of the columns, steps, and the barely visible statue of Lincoln, seated inside a remarkable level of detail for such a small denomination. Now let's talk mintage. The Denver Mint produced approximately 6.45 billion Lincoln cents in 1983. That's a staggering number, and at first glance, it might seem that the 1983D penny is too common to hold any real value. But numismatics is all about nuance, and the 1983D penny has more than its fair share of that. What makes the 1983D Lincoln penny especially captivating is its link to a small group of 1983 cents that defied expectations. A small number of 1983 Lincoln cents struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark were discovered to be made of solid copper, rather than copper-plated zinc. These so-called 1983 copper pennies caused a sensation because they weren't supposed to exist. It was believed that by 1983, all Lincoln cents were being struck on zinc plankets. The discovery of these copper coins raised questions. Were they struck using leftover plankets from 1982? Were they test strikes? Errors? No one knows for sure. While the 1983D variant hasn't yet produced a verified copper planchet version like its Philadelphia cousin, collectors are on high alert, weighing and checking their 1983 discs, hoping to discover that unicorn. Weighing 3.11 grams instead of the expected 2.5 grams would indicate a copper planchet. This small chance of a major find has kept this coin in the numismatic spotlight. Now let's explore values. A typical circulated 1983D Lincoln penny is worth face value, but in uncirculated condition, prices increase quickly. In mint state grades MS60, MS65, they typically range from $1 to $5, depending on the quality of strike and luster. However, if you have a high-grade example graded MS67 or higher, prices can reach $75 to $150, especially for red specimens road, with full original color and minimal blemishes. Collectors seek out these pristine examples because of their rarity, and top-condition zinc plankets are notoriously susceptible to spotting and corrosion, so finding well-preserved pieces is no easy task. Errors are a major reason collectors chase 1983D Lincoln pennies. Plating issues are especially common in post-1982 cents, as the thin copper plating can sometimes blister, bubble, or separate, leading to unique and valuable errors. Other errors include off-center strikes, double dies, clipped plankets, and die cracks. One of the most desirable errors to look for on any 1983 Lincoln penny is a double die reverse DDR, particularly on the word 1 cent, where strong doubling can bring values of $100 to $500, depending on grade and eye appeal. There's another important reason the 1983D penny captures collector interest: educational importance. It serves as a textbook example of the mint's shift to zinc-based plankets. It's used in classrooms, coin clubs, and hobbyist presentations to demonstrate the difference between copper and zinc coins. Tap it gently, and you'll hear a dull thud instead of the resonant ring of a copper coin. Weigh it, and you'll see the significant difference. Look at how it ages. Zinc coins corrode more easily, often forming white oxidation spots over time, while copper coins tend to turn brown or red. The 1983D coin, common though it may be, is an anchor point in this story of transformation, and the hunt is ongoing. Thousands of collectors regularly sort through rolls of 1983D Lincoln pennies, weighing, inspecting, and checking for high-grade examples or error varieties. Online communities share discoveries, photos, and encouragement, all united by the thrill of the hunt. It's a grassroots kind of numismatics, low cost, high potential, and open to everyone. That's part of the appeal of the 1983D. You don't have to be a millionaire to get involved. All you need is a keen eye, a scale, a magnifier, and a bit of patience. Even with more than 6 billion struck, the 1983D has carved out its own niche in the Lincoln Cent series. It's a coin that rewards diligence. While no confirmed 1983D copper planchet exists yet, the mere possibility has sparked excitement across the community. Remember, just a few years ago, people thought the 1982D copper small date was a myth, too. Then one turned up and shattered expectations. It could happen again. The 1983D Lincoln penny is far more than a humble coin. It represents a critical turning point in the materials used for America's lowest denomination. Let's now turn our attention to another Lincoln cent that stirred both curiosity and controversy across the numismatic world, the 1974 Lincoln penny. This coin, like others in its series, offers far more than face value. It is a mirror of its era, a time of inflation, rising material costs, and bold experimentation by the U.S. Mint that almost changed the very makeup of America's lowest denomination coin. To begin, the 1974 Lincoln cent was struck during a time of significant economic turbulence. The early 1970s brought rising copper prices, prompting the U.S. Mint to explore cheaper alternatives for coin production. Copper had long been a core component of the 1 cent piece, but by 1973 to 74, its cost threatened to exceed the coin's face value. This spurred research into experimental materials and plankets that might maintain affordability while preserving the penny's utility. The standard 1974 Lincoln penny, like those minted from 1962 through 1982, was made of a 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy. Its classic design, unchanged since its introduction in 1959, featured Abraham Lincoln's right-facing bust on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, with inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. The reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a creation of Frank Gasparo that honored the historic monument in Washington, D.C. with precise column details and the faint outline of the seated Lincoln statue visible within. Now here's where the 1974 Lincoln penny gets truly fascinating. In addition to the standard copper-based coins, the Mint struck a series of experimental 1974 pennies in aluminum. These 1974 aluminum cents, produced at the Philadelphia Mint, were created as a potential replacement for copper-based coins. Approximately 1.5 million were struck in anticipation of a full transition, but due to pushback from Congress, vending machine lobbyists, and other interests, the aluminum cent project was scrapped. All but a few of these coins were believed to have been melted down. However, a handful of the aluminum 1974 Lincoln pennies escaped destruction. Today, these coins are illegal to own and are considered U.S. government property. Despite that, a few examples have surfaced and caused a media frenzy. The discovery of one such piece in a former U.S. Mint official's estate in the 1990s led to lengthy legal battles, and the coin was eventually returned to the Mint. These aluminum cents are numismatic legends worth potentially millions of dollars, but completely off-limits for public sale or ownership. The standard 1974 copper Lincoln penny, on the other hand, remains quite common. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 4.2 billion of them, the Denver Mint produced over 4.2 billion more, and the San Francisco Mint added 412 million proof coins. That said, pristine high-grade examples can still command solid value. In MS-65 red condition, a 1970 for Lincoln penny can bring $5 to $15, while MS-67 red examples are much scarcer and can sell for $100 or more. Proof versions from San Francisco, particularly deep cameo DCAM specimens, can reach $50 to $150 depending on grade and clarity. Errors from the 1974 run also draw collector interest. Among the most notable are double dies, especially strong doubling on the date or Liberty, off-center strikes, clipped plankets, and die cracks. One well-known 1974 doubled die obverse has dramatic doubling in Liberty and in God We Trust, which can bring in hundreds of dollars at auction. For Lincoln cent enthusiasts, the 1974 issue represents a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage history. It was a year when the fate of the penny hung in the balance, and while the experimental aluminum version never made it into circulation, its legacy continues to capture imaginations. It's a vivid reminder of how even the smallest coin can be at the center of massive economic and political debates. In today's collecting landscape, 1970 for Lincoln pennies remain a staple for roll hunters, error seekers, and those building complete day-tan mint mark sets. Their affordability, abundance, and hidden surprises make them ideal for both beginners and seasoned hobbyists alike. And as stories of aluminum cents and dramatic double dies continue to circulate, the 1970 for penny maintains its mystique and importance in the broader saga of American numismatics. So the next time you come across a 1970 for Lincoln penny, take a closer look. It might be a common copper centaur. It could be your link to one of the most curious chapters in U.S. mint history. In the world of coins, you never know what secrets may lie just beneath the surface.